This is a tutorial on how to create this day to night hand swipe and finger snap transition. The difficulty level of this edit is a 3 out of 5. Most of the work is done during the filming. And the techniques used include match cut, speed ramping, and a little bit of keyframing if you need to fix some errors. The app that I will use to demonstrate this is CapCut, but you can easily do this on pretty much any video editing app. And pause to read the examples of how to apply this to your niche. Now let's get into the tutorial. So first I want to show you how to film these types of clips. First, you're going to start with a clip where you swipe and snap. Then you're going to snap again when it's nighttime and then swipe again. And you can do that across multiple destinations. So this is what it looks like when you are doing the wipe. I put my phone on my elbows to help stabilize the clip and also make sure that my arms are roughly always in the same position. And I film it on the wide angle camera on 0.5x. Now, some very important things to note is that you want to keep your hand and your arms roughly always in the same place. So you can see here, it is consistently in the middle throughout, and it is also in the center of the frame. It is also best if your hand shape when you are wiping is the same, and we'll explain why later. And when you are snapping, make sure you snap in the same direction. What you want to avoid is something like this, where you start the frame with your hands moving away from the center. Let's say this one is out of the frame actually on the left side. And then when you get to the center, you are centered. What you need to do really is make sure that you are always having your arms centered and having your hands in roughly the same position. This is very important, but don't worry, in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how you can salvage and fix this type of situation and still connect the clips together if you didn't keep your hands always in the exact same position. Lastly is when you are starting the wipe, try to start with some speed. So try to start with some speed, slow down in the middle, and then when you wipe out, you also want to give it some speed. So snap and give it some speed. It doesn't have to be super fast, but as long as you are moving it along and not going super slow, then that's fine. The purpose of this is because you want to create some of this motion blur so that when you connect the two clips, it looks more smooth, and also so it looks like you are wiping fast enough. One more thing you want to keep in mind is that if you're doing it at nighttime on 0.5x or wide angle, it is lower in quality. So try to do it before it's completely dark, or you can set up the scene so that it's not completely dark. So for example here, I used a light that was attached to my phone, so I clipped it on my phone and used that to light up my hands a little bit so that it's not completely dark. I will link that light in the description. So you can see this is the version without the light, and this is the version with the light. So how do you actually film it to ensure that you match it from your daytime right here to the nighttime? So I do actually cover this inside lesson 5 about match cutting, but basically what you can do is you can find the place where you are going to transition, like right here when you snap, and then screenshot this and then use this to compare. So when you are filming at nighttime, so I only have the example where I don't have my hands light up, you can then pause here. So let's say if this was your camera app, this is actually a screen recording that I recorded to show you how I try to match things up. I can then swipe up out of the camera app and look at the screenshot that I took and try to match it up. So what I'm doing here is I'm observing the key elements, like this building on the left here, or these roofs on the right here, or roughly where this mountain tip is in the frame, and I try to observe this, and also how centered are my fingers and hands, so where my arms are, I try to make sure the positions are almost exactly the same. And so when we are at the nighttime spot, I make sure to observe these elements. So you can see that we have this right here, we have all of these roofs, I match them up, And I looked at where the tip of the mountain is and I tried to match that up. I also made sure that the hand is nicely centered, and I used these grids to help guide me to know where to put my arms to match the daytime to nighttime. With just these few key references, I'm usually able to match it up really, really well. But if not, I'm going to show you how to match it up even better when we are editing this. Lastly, I also make sure to edit on the spot when I am doing it at night so that I know that it is actually matched up before I leave the place. So that if I know it's not perfectly matched up, I can redo it again. Now let's put all of the clips into an app. I'm using CapCut here, but again, you can use any app to create this. So first, let's match the day to night for each city. And the place that you want to transition is right here, in between when the motion is the most obvious. You always want to try and transition where there is the most motion, and the reason is because this helps to disguise and also make smoother the jump between two scenes that are actually different. So here it's the lighting that is different, going from day to night. Okay, so right here, in between the snap. So let's split that and delete the front part. And so then you can take a look. Okay, so now that it looks good in terms of the timeline, let's go into overlay and overlay this. And then you can also zoom in if you want. Drag this front part of the clip a little bit in the timeline. And then now what you want to do is just find the part where they're overlapping, and you want to go to blend, decrease the opacity, and now what you can do is just match it up as much as possible. Okay, so you want to find the last frame of the daytime clip and start to match them up. So you can pinch and make the daytime layer a bit bigger, and then start moving it a little bit to try and match it up as best as you can. Now notice that it really tries to either snap to the edges like this, or it will try to snap to the center of the frame. So what you can do is go to basic, and this allows you to really customize how you move it on the x-axis, y-axis, etc. So then I can be more precise. So you can see that here, if I move it like this, it's very precise and it doesn't try and snap to the center because I'm controlling the x-axis by little by little. So we're going to move it here. Oh, that looks really nicely matched up. Let's also move the y-axis around to see if we can match it even better. I mean, I think it's already in a really good spot. I think that looks really good. So now we can go back to the top layer and bring the opacity back to normal, and then also bring this back to where it was, and then move it back to the main track by tapping on main track. And now you have this perfectly meshed up clip. Nice. It was already pretty good before, but we just made it even better. So now you just want to trim the last part of this clip, roughly here. And don't worry, we'll adjust that later. We'll trim it to the right part to match between the two clips, so no need to worry. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Let's start by trimming roughly around here and removing the excess. And then we will change right here. When it's snapping, delete the rest. And now let's try to match these two. As you can see, it already looks pretty close. There's definitely a bit of a difference here, so we can fix that. And then we can also crop this video up around here and delete the rest. Okay. So let's try to match this right now. And again, we're going to use the overlay method. So go to overlay and then pinch to zoom in, and then move this forward a teeny bit. And then go to the last frame where it overlaps. Go to blend, decrease the opacity, and now you can match it up as best as you can. So let's increase the size of this a little. again, you always want to crop in order to have room to move things around. So that's why we crop in on things. So I'm going to move it so it's lower so it can match up with the daytime. We'll also crop in on the daytime a bit and try to move it up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Actually, that looks almost perfect. Okay, so now let's just go to blend, increase the opacity, and check if that looked good. Okay, let's play it from the beginning. That looks pretty good. It's pretty seamless. Boop. Okay. So now we can put this back on the main track by tapping on main track. Now we want to start this clip. And this is a clip where I didn't start my hands in the right place. So I'm going to trim as much as possible to the point where at least you can see my full hand in the frame. Maybe somewhere around here, roughly here. Because you do need to leave some runway to lead up to the actual monument itself, right? And then let's trim it to where I snap right here. So let's trim that. And then let's find the spot where I start at night. And the thing that I did here actually is you can see how there's this double-decker bus. At night, I waited until another bus came by before I did the snap, and I tried to time it well. It was pretty close to being perfect. So this is the part where the bus comes by. I'm going to split it, and I'm going to delete the first part. And let's just take a look. So you can see that the buildings actually aren't lined up. So we can definitely try to fix that. So again, let's go to overlay, move it forward, decrease opacity, and let's start matching like this. And then let's move the bottom like this. Now that's looking pretty good. Okay, let's move the opacity back to 100. Let's take a look. Yeah, that looks really good. Fantastic. Now let's move it back to the main track. Okay, now let's move on to this clip in Uzbekistan. So let's start from here. Cut it off where it snaps, split and delete the rest. And then we start from here, trim that, and pause it around here. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so you can definitely see that it is close. It's very close, but it's not perfect. So let's go to overlay. Again, drag it a little bit further in the timeline. And you can decrease the opacity. And let's match it up. And the thing is, if you can crop just one layer and not have to crop in on both layers, then all the better, because that means you are not sacrificing the resolution of the clip. So because I can see that the bottom layer is the one that is smaller, so I chose to crop in on the bottom layer so that I don't have to also crop in on the top layer. So you can see the top layer is its original size. All right, now that we know it matches up, let's increase the opacity to 100. Let's move it back to the main track by tapping on main track, and let's double check. That's perfect. That's so good. Let's trim this a bit more. Let's trim the next clip. Let's trim that, delete the front, and then snap. Okay, right here. Split, delete the rest. Okay, for some reason, CapCut is what I'm seeing. It is not matching up with exactly what is on the timeline. It's slow to respond. I'm not sure if it's because of my phone or if it's CapCut itself, but just so you know, that's what's going on. If you don't see what is reflected in the screen to be exactly accurate, and sometimes it can be glitchy a little bit, just FYI. Alright, so this is between day and night. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's again repeat the same steps. Honestly, it's already so close. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, I think that looks decent. Now let's just trim the end of this clip and let's go on to the next one. So let's trim this, delete the front, and snap right there. And then snap right here, split, delete the front part, and let's take a look. Ooh! And let's trim the rest. Next is Switzerland. Trim here, and snap, trim, delete, split, delete. Now let's take a look. That was so close. Okay, let's go in and overlay. Let's take a look. Perfect. That was perfect. Now that we know that all of the day to night clips look fantastic, let's try to match up the swipe motion from one city to the other. Now, this is the part where it gets a bit hard because you might not always have the hands in the same position as you can see here, but we're going to try to do our best to salvage that. I think maybe I could move the position of this arm down. Now, let's just again do this overlay thing to try and match it up as much as we can. Okay, so one thing I want to say is before you start moving this frame around, because this frame has already been cropped in, you want to make sure to add a keyframe to the snapping part because you don't want to affect the sizing and the matching of what you already made before. So adding a keyframe anchors the position, the sizing of the hand when it snaps. Now what you want to do is just go back to this point, anchor it again, and then start making your adjustments. That way it won't actually affect this part of the clip. In fact, it will animate from here to here, right? So that is the tip that I recommend doing when you are doing this type of transition. So I have tried to match it up. I think it does look better compared to before. Honestly, I'm not sure if there's much we can do in this case because the hand gesture is so different. So this is why it's also important to try to keep your hands in the same position as you're making this so that it is as seamless as possible. All right, let's bring the opacity back up and bring this onto the main track. So if we take a quick look, it is not smooth at all. Even though we changed the position a little bit of the arms, it doesn't help. So what we can do instead is try to change the speed between the two clips to speed up this process. Like if you speed this up, you see how somehow that's suddenly seamless? It's not as obvious anymore that the hand gesture is so different. So speeding up things definitely helps to smooth out the transition between two clips. So go to speed, curve, custom, and edit. So we want to speed up the beginning part right when the two clips connect. And like this. And then let's play it and have a look. With the speed, it already helps so much. Let's see. Not bad. And what we can also do is we can expand this part and try to speed it up at the end as well. So go to custom, speed up this part. When you increase the speed of both of the clips where it connects, that's when it really does help. So that's looking better already. It's kind of like a disguise. All right, let's move on, and we can always try to tweak things later on. So because this one you start so far on the left of the frame, You definitely want to add a keyframe here and add a keyframe here, and then maybe you can try to move the hand. Maybe you can crop in and try to move it more to the center. It's not going to be perfect, but it may help. So here, maybe you can crop here. So again, add a keyframe in the beginning and the end of the clip. And then now we just try to match it up better. The discrepancy is so huge, I'm not even going to bother overlaying it because we're never going to get it to match up perfectly. But I do know that it is on lower left, so we can just try to do that. Like so. So this already helps to match it up a lot better. So that actually doesn't look as bad as I thought. If we want to, we can speed up the beginning part of this London clip just a tiny bit, just to disguise it a little, and maybe also speed up the end of the Trevi Fountain bit a little bit. Like this. Not too much. Okay. Let's play again. Okay. So that looks good, and now we want to trim this part and connect it to this. It's looking really good, but I'm just going to overlay it to match it up just to be safe. Okay, let's look at the two clips. It looks pretty good, but I do think we can speed up the beginning and the end to make it look more smooth. Only really need a little bit of speed ramp here. Okay, let's play it. Okay, that's looking great. So now we want to connect this clip and this clip. Very different. So since this clip is larger, we're going to crop in on this nighttime clip and make it larger. And I want to add a keyframe. I also want to add a keyframe to the beginning. And maybe I want it to only start enlarging from after I start swiping, so roughly here. So I add another keyframe so that I lock this position into place before I start cropping in and moving the hand to try and match the two. Let's play it. Okay, we can definitely make this work just by adding a little bit of speed ramp. I think that looks all right. We can move on to the next one. Let's play it. That looks great. I'm just going to speed ramp it a little bit so it's smooth between the two clips. Perfect, that looks great. Now let's move on to the next one, connecting this one and this one. The position of the hands actually look really good. It's very seamless. If we play it in real time before speed ramping, it looks like this. Pretty good, except that it's definitely too slow. So let's speed ramp it in the beginning and the end. And let's take a look again. That looks great. Okay, now let's play it from the beginning. That looks great. So now what we want to do is add the music and try to adjust the speed of everything to match the music. So if you need a refresher, you can check the lesson on music, on how to handle music, extract it, etc. It's very simple. You just extract from the clip that you've already screen recorded. So I found this song on Instagram. I've used it before. I think it's fantastic. It has this really distinct snap sound. And so with each snap, I think it would be perfect for the finger to snap. So we want to trim the clip and then match the snap. You can see, here's a tip. You can see where the snap is happening because of the sound waves. So you can match the snap right to the beat of the song, like this. So you can tell that we need to speed up everything so that this snap happens here. So let's go in and trim a bunch of stuff. So first let's speed ramp. You can either speed ramp or you can trim. Both works. It just depends on how it looks in the scenario. Nice. So now I want the music to loop. So this is the part where the beginning part starts. So you can hear that there's about 5 beats at the end that I can match to different clips, and then it will loop to the beginning. And the beginning starts right here. So I'm gonna crop the music. I'm gonna split the clip and split the music here. We're gonna move the first part of the clip all the way to the end. And also I'm gonna delete this front part of the music and just move the music forward. So now we can go in and look at how to match the ending part. And the idea that I have is to duplicate all of these swiping parts we have and then add it to the end with every single beat. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to duplicate this, move it to the end, and I'm going to find a part from here and here. And then I'm going to do the same for this clip. Duplicate, move to the end, and I'm going to use this part where I'm swiping right here, from here to here, split, delete, like this. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these keyframes because I don't think we'll need them. And I'm going to zoom out. We can match it later, so don't worry about that. Okay, let's add 2 more. So the goal is to have the music and the clip end at the same time. So this looks like it's ending at a good place. And we just want to make sure that each clip matches up with a beat. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we want to match these hands as best as we can. They all look pretty good already, but it's not perfect. So let's add keyframes to these. Okay, let's play it. It looks pretty good. Now the music loops and the beats match. And so let's play it from the beginning. Great, and that is the final reel. Now you just have to export it.